What a beautiful day it is. I'm recording on a Monday, but we know this is coming out on Wednesday. I hope you guys have had a fabulous weekend. Mine was great. And in the last episode of Boxpod, I left you guys with homework, right? So for those of you who didn't make it to the end of the episode, now we know. You know, I leave the homework at the end of the episode. So, first question. How many continents are there in the world? How many continents are there in the world? And a lot of you answered this question and you said 7. 7! 7! Fun fact, there are not 7 continents in the world. Yeah? Imagine. And I did my research because if any of you just decided to do the research, you know, not just stick with the question and just be like, what kind of question are you asking? Like, of course, there are 7. Yeah, that's how people who were born before Pluto was dethroned from being a planet used to say, with their confidence. You'd be seated there playing charades in the house and you'd be like, you know, and it'd be like, planet Pluto. But Pluto is not a planet. Neither are there 7 continents. There are not 7 continents. There are 5 land masses. 5. Now that we've got that clear. Yeah? And the reason I'm telling you this is because people can just wake up and decide that the air, or that there's this thing that you've learned your whole life and you thought that this is how it operates. But if you don't do any critical thinking, this will be your narrative, right? So I know for a lot of people it's not important, but Europe is not a country. It's not a continent. Europe and Asia are one. It's Eurasia. Yeah? Can we talk about America? There's nothing like North and South. There's just America. If we're talking about a continent being a landmass where the tectonic plates sit, there are only 5 continents, right? So that is a fun conversation you can have with your family during Christmas, holiday engagements. By the way, how was your Jamhuri Day? How was your holidays? And you know, we've kicked off because Christmas is just around the corner. I mean, today is what? The 14th, 15th. Right? So in just 10 days, oh my God, Christmas is here. And for me, I feel like a lot of us have even forgotten what the aim of Christmas is, but that's beside the point. Let's get into it. As we always do every single Wednesday, it's time for Run the Tape. And the first story, hey guys, it got messy in India. This weekend, India has been all over my timeline for different reasons. Now, reason number 1, Tyla, that musician from South Africa, the one who's always having beef with Black Americans because she said she's not Black, she's not mixed. She said she's colored. And Black Americans are like, what are you talking about? Black is black, right? You've not followed up on that story. It's so hilarious. Go to TikTok. She was dragged. How can you call yourself colored? You're black. But you know, in South Africa, there's this whole thing called colored. And I think I've only experienced it in South Africa. Anyway, so last week, Tyla was in India. She was performing. And it's so great to see. In fact, for the first time, she looked like she really was back with her people. Because she does have Indian roots. She really looked like she was like with her people. Not saying that she didn't look African, but man, she really blended with the Indians. But you know what was the crazy part? People were asking, oh my God, I didn't know that Indian had baddies. What do you mean you don't know India had baddies? Like, what's that about? And of course, Indians have come out and be like, oh, how can you say, how ignorant can you be? Americans, oh my God, how can you be talking like this? But I'm going to say this, right? The truth is, this is the algorithm. It's not people who are sort of less educated. It's what the algorithm is pushing. So for example, if you look at the algorithm from India, right? What's the algorithm from India pushing on your page? Isn't it just showing you like dirty food, street food? That's all that my algorithm is showing me from India. Dirty street food, period. Right? Until Tyla went there and now we're talking about baddies, right? And you're surprised that people are talking about that India has baddies. It's because we don't see them. And we're fed by the algorithm. Like, it's not even a choice. If you don't have a friend who's from India, you're not going to have the algorithm from India, the normal stuff, show up on your page. That's why someone from Kenya will think that TZ has baddies. Why? Because your algorithm is bringing you baddies from TZ. But somehow the algorithm is not bringing you baddies from India. All it's bringing you is dirty street food and a guy in your DM sending you dick pics. Yeah, this Indian sending you dick pics in your socials is yeah. Anyway, so this weekend we got to see a bit more from India. And by the way, India has a lot of things going on. For example, and when I mean a lot, I mean a lot. There's more than 1 billion Indians. 1 billion. With a B. 1 billion Indians, right? That's a lot of people. So, of course, there's a lot of things going on in that country. So, yes, to some extent, it is a level of ignorance. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But I think more largely the conversation that people were having is that this algorithm doesn't bring me anything from India when it comes to baddies, right? But for us older generation, older millennials, maybe Gen X and boomers, right? How many times does India win Miss Universe, Miss World? We stay knowing that beautiful people come from India. But like it seems that guys on TikTok, the TikTok family, hadn't seen hot Indians. Well, let's keep it right there in India. I know we always start in Africa, but let's stay right there in India. I started this conversation by telling you that India got messy. Or did it? Well, things got hot. So, Messi was scheduled to be making an appearance in India, right? This great footballer from Argentina, or should I call him from Miami, this was slated to be a big deal. And from a country that is mostly known for cricket, they were very, very excited to see Messi, right? Yeah, just because India is known for cricket doesn't mean that there are no football fans. You get what I'm saying? Algorithm. So you have to go past the ignorance, right? So on top of that, they were launching a statue, right, of Messi. And I think at this point, producer ran the tape. Here you can see the statue that was going to be unveiled. But it got really messy because what? Guys showed up at the stadium. Of course, guys have bought tickets. There were guys complaining that they spent about more than $100 to pay for a ticket to see Messi. That's about $14,000, right? They've got to the stadium. They're seated there. Everybody's in the stadium. I don't know what your expectations were, right? But when Messi got into the stadium, officials walikuwa wamemzunguka. Ma VIPs are the guy. And you know Messi is a puny guy. Not in a bad way. he's a small guy. So if like 5 bouncers stand around the guy, can't see him. And that's exactly what happened. These guys who had paid a lot of money ended up not seeing. Waliona tu tunywele. They couldn't even confirm that the person there in that stadium in the pink shirt is Messi. So what happened next? Something I'd never thought I'd ever see with my eyes because of ignorance in the algorithm. In India, these guys smashed that stadium, beat the shit out of the stadium because they couldn't find the officials to beat them. It got hot. And they were complaining. I've paid everything I've paid all the rupees to see Messi, and it got Messi. I didn't even see his face. It's crazy. I wonder what the officials have to say about this. But let me tell you, if I book to see an artist or somebody, right? I better have a one-on-one. Hii kitu ati tumeka kwa stadium tunamwangalia hivi na binoculars. I've said no. Right? I shared with you my experience of seeing Thames. Right? The attempt was noted, but I saw her from a kilometer away. Right? And I paid and I was still in the VIP. Right? But for these guys at the stadium, I don't know what the expectations were. If you're seated far and you're short-sighted, what are you expecting? Haujakuja na binoculars. Hata ile inaitwaje? You haven't come with it. How are you going to see this really small guy? Anyway, that's what I call corruption. That's what I call being swindled. That's what I call giving your money for lack of a good experience. You have not confirmed the experience. You should, listen, if you want a meet or greet with a celeb, do it like Chris Brown. Unalipa $100 yako hapa. You stand in the line. The person goes, and you are next. And you get to touch this person. The person touches you. And you say, good, nimetwanga picture. At least you can say, unaona Messi ndio huyu. But now imagine you're sitting in a stadium. Even if you paid entrance, you'll be sure you have a photo your dad has a photo in the house of him in the stadium. And then he has zoomed there. He has choran that dot. You see that dot? That's Messi. What was the point? Right? Anyway, you pay what you get for. That's all I'm saying. If they did this in Africa, I think, hey, I've never seen that Indians being mad because they're breaking stuff. Anyway, it's always good to see new things. Let's go to another part of the world. Australia banned TikTok. Do you know that? Yeah, for teenagers. Starting, they reached, I think it was 5th of December, where it was the cutoff date, or 6th. And now after that, if you're under the age of 16, you can no longer access TikTok. And I was thinking about it. I was like, what are my thoughts on teenagers having TikTok, right? 2 weeks ago, I told you about this project that I'm doing with an amazing NGO called Births and Beyond. Births and Beyond. And Births and Beyond works with mothers who are in their adolescent moms. We're constantly talking about teenage moms, but we forget about the adolescent ones. So the reason I'm telling you about that is because some of these vices and some of these things, right? You're giving somebody access to technology and not necessarily equipping them with, how to protect themselves in the event that they experience ABCDE, right? And also the brain rot, right? Which has been constantly spoken about. If you haven't heard about brain rot from social media, when you finish this episode, I want you to write down somewhere, brain rot, and then go and read about it. This is a real thing. All this stuff you're consuming, not branded tape, these are the stuff that you're scrolling, right? It's making your brain rot. So Australia took all this advisory and said, you know what, we're going to protect our kids. And that's what they've done, right? Now, I know you're watching and your junior, Jaden, is seated there, already knows how to operate the social media. So I'm not going to ask you, right? I'm not going to ask you whether they should bring this to Kenya, but I'm curious. If you have an answer to this, put it in the comment section. I decided to ask a 14-year-old because that's the person who's affected by this technology. And this is what they had to say. Run the tape. Tell us your name.
Chebet,
how you doing?
I'm fine.
How's your holiday going?
Awesome, because I'm not in school.
Because you're not in
You should drop out of school.
These ones have already dropped out of school. Chebet, I have a question for you.
Yeah?
Are you on social media?
Hell no.
How old are you?
I'm 14.
Why aren't you on social media?
Because I don't want to be.
Like, you've never even thought about being on TikTok?
Nah.
Have you ever seen girls doing dance challenges?
Yeah.
Where do you see them?
Like on YouTube, and my friends tell me. I have a lot of friends because I'm cool.
Are your friends on social media?
Yeah, like all of them.
And you don't feel left out?
No. Okay, I felt left out for long enough. Then I was like, nah, I'm just gonna do my own thing. So then I was like, nah, I don't want to be on social media. Yeah. Just read books.
Wow.
And drop out.
Okay. We're going to focus on the reading books part. Drop out, you'll drop when you're done, right? You can drop when you're done. Have you heard of kids in Australia?
Yeah.
The Australian government reached a place, they said, if you're under the age of 14, you can't be on social media.
Then they say 16.
16.
Yeah, I saw that.
And do you think we should introduce something like that to Kenya?
I think it's kind of dumb. Because I think it's a personal decision. I think it should be like under 12. And then after that, just do you.
Wow. You can hear it from a 14-year-old. But I have a feeling this is not the case for every 14-year-old out there. So if you're a 14-year-old, because I've seen from my algorithm that you are watching this show, I'd love to know from you. What are your thoughts on this ban? And do you think this is what should be brought to Kenya from your perspective, not from anybody else's perspective, from your perspective? But parents, you know which people I think shouldn't have access to social media? Children. Children shouldn't have access to social media, for whatever the case. I know we'll say that, we grow up watching these things. Your parent would say, don't watch TV at night, but you still go and get the remote and watch when they're not there. That's how you know about Bold and the Beautiful or whatever. But TV is not like social media. Social media is different. And it's what they make people do. Let me give you an example. Do you remember the plank challenge? Did you do a plank? Why? Do you remember the ice bucket challenge? Did you do a prank? Why? Do you remember the the many, many other myriads of challenge. Oh, I remember the other one, the one we were there. Oh. Let me take you back to 2019. Was it 2019, 2018? The one where we are all just statue. You remember that one? That was fire. Wait, do you remember that one, Kangs? That was fire. It was a fire challenge, right? But the reason I'm asking, why did you take part in those challenges? Because it was the thing to do, right? It was not at is this logical? Is it making sense? You just did it. Cindy. Now, as a parent, this is the reason why I don't think children should be on social media. Me, as a parent of everybody who's watching me right now. Because when you're taking part in that challenge, you're an adult enough to know that, okay, I don't want to take part. This is a bit dangerous. It's a bit too silly for my liking, right? But if you're a kid, would you be able to make such decisions? Here's a parent talking about the effects of social media on their child. And I just have to mention that if you are suicidal, please reach out for help, and we will share some numbers here. But this is about child suicide. Run the tape.
He was watching YouTube Kids, and it was a cartoon. It was in cartoon form, and it taught him how to hang himself. Luckily, my wife, something told my wife. She was like, she wants something to drink. So I was going up to the kitchen, and usually when I walked past his bedroom, he usually would chase after me, and then I would hide, and we would always have this little game where I would hide, and then same place I would hide, but it was just something that we did. And this time he didn't follow me out. So something was like, just go check on him and see if he's sleeping or not. And I go in and he's hanging from the bunk bed. Take him off, lay him down, and me and my wife start working on him. First responders show up, and they get him to breathing again. They take him out. They get him to the hospital. They save him. He's in a coma for like 3 days, medically induced in coma for like 3 days. Once they take him out, they're trying to get him to, move his limbs or whatnot. And he didn't do it for like a day. Then the next day, I was just like, oh, he had to learn how to walk it. He had to learn how to write his name and everything again. This when he was 6, he just turned 8 on the 19th. That led me to raise awareness for other families, because he wasn't the only kid that was a victim of this social media challenge. It's called the Hangman Challenge. It basically teaches kids how to hang themselves, and a lot of other kids have died. Luckily, I'm still here. He's still here for a reason.
All right. Did you hear that, Dad? Explain how his 6-year-old child on YouTube learned how to hang himself. Right? And that's the reason why I say, if you're a parent and you've got kids on social media, it's not about what distracts the kid. It's not about what makes you comfortable. It's not about this other thing that is babysitting your child, right? It is about the amount of stuff going into this child's brain, the amount of information that they are not able to compute because their brain hasn't formed completely. So I want to ask this question again. At what age do you think a child should be on social media? All right, guys, what the hell is the EU preparing for? Like, what won't be, no, EU, I mean Europe, right? Because I've seen Denmark, right, preparing their residents for in case of emergency, right? Like war stuff, like, this is the sound you hear, this is the bunker you go to, these are the foods that you should prepare, right? It's not the only country. I've seen UK. UK did a test. I think they've done like 3 tests this year, right? I have a UK line, so I know, right? And basically every citizen in their nation, had to take part in these emergency drills, right? And they're supposed to be for in the event that there is a war. Netherlands as well has done. These are European countries that are doing this. And look at us as Africa. What are we doing? Anyway, let's come back to Africa, because I have to give you an update on what has been happening, right? So last time we spoke, Benin had a coup, right? An attempted coup. What happened was, before even the dust could settle, before even the people in Benin could know, hey, is there a new president? What has happened? They were back in. The president was back established, right? Who helped? Nigeria. Nigeria sent their military. Right? Now I've got an update. Apparently, it was France. France, right? France asked Nigeria, yo, you got to help us out with Benin. And France said, and Nigeria said, bet. They did their thing, right? Of course, now, there's a lot of conversation around like, hold up. The same Nigeria that has militants in their own country. The one that needs America. The one that America has volunteered to go and help them out, right? But they have energy to go help Benin. In the same breath, Nigeria has handed over, they're doing this deal where France is going to help Nigeria collect taxes. This was announced right after Nigeria helped France secure Benin. Also, I just want to note that France has been having a terrible time in West Africa because the West African countries, especially the ones next to the Sahel region, the Malians, the Burkinabes, yeah, they're called Burkinabes. The other ones, right? Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, right? They've come together. You know what they've decided to do? They've decided to open a bank, right? The three of them, right? They're going to be putting their money there, 10%, I think, of their GDP, of their earnings. They're going to be pumping into this bank so that they can invest in their own region without external help. Right? Now, I'm not an economist. There are those who are like, this is short-sighted because, you have to bring in healthy competition. But there are also those who are looking at it African for Africa, right? And so some of these things are the ones that we're highlighting. We're like, these used to be France's domain, okay? They used to be able to access. These countries used to be able to trade with their own franc, right? The French currency. But now they are doing things on their own, right? And so skeptics are looking at Nigeria the way they look at Kenya in East Africa. If you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If you don't know, bro, let me tell you. So guys look at, like in this scenario, Nigeria is being looked at like a traitor. Okay? Because it's like, let me give you another example. So, you know that because of what's happening in the Sahel region, Burkina Faso banned flights, any other countries that are not aligned to them, from using their airspace. But Nigeria's plane was, I don't want to say hijacked, but was captured, right, in Burkina Faso. Why? Because it was flying there allegedly illegally. Now, Nigerians are saying that it was an emergency and they needed to do a landing. But 11 of their soldiers have been arrested in Burkina Faso. 11.
Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, says Nigerian soldiers involved in the recent forced landing of a military aircraft in Burkina Faso are still in the country. The minister explained that the aircraft made an unscheduled landing, prompting ongoing diplomatic and military engagements. Mr. Tuga said this while responding to questions on the status of the soldiers during a joint press briefing with his Beninese counterpart, Olusegun Bakare, assuring that the situation is being handled through appropriate channels.
I don't know what's going on in the West, but it's always a movie every time we look that side. And I will be keeping you updated on what's going on. I have one more story from the West before we leave. That's West Africa. Ghana. Hey. Hey. So, in, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Ghana is like, Charlie, what's it happen? Did they stop you from entering? Why? Okay. Oh, so you're not going to allow some of our Ghanaians to enter your country? No problem. Find me 3 Israelis. 3 Israelis were deported from Ghana. Like, true story. You can't even make this stuff up. Like, the details, you gotta go read. You know what we say? As here, we run the tape. But the running of the details, it is upon you. It is upon you to go check. But anyway, that's what's happening in West Africa. Let's come back to the East. You know, Kenyans, we dominate everywhere we go. Everywhere we go in athletics. No, I mean, that's just a given. It doesn't matter what athletic games are happening anywhere in the world, there's going to be a Kenyan. Like, for example, in Sri Lanka, right? Now, before we get settled in Sri Lanka, let me tell you what happened. Guys, have you seen what has been happening with the environment? Oh, you haven't? Okay, let me give you this Al Jazeera video just to give you a quick sneak peek on what has been happening in the world. In 3, 2, run the tape. Seen that rain? It almost looks like the world is ending. You know, by the way, in Ghana, there's a guy who's building an ark. And he has said 25th December, the world is coming to an end, right? So you just keep locking people out of your country. He has an ark and he's building it. He's building an ark. You haven't seen it? Run the tape.
Breaking news, a man named Noah in Ghana is building an Ark of Doom. It has become a hot topic across the country after claiming that what happened during the biblical days of Noah is about to happen again. According to him, starting December 25, 2025, a heavy rain will fall continuously for 3 years, flooding the entire world. He says God revealed it to him, and he has already begun building an ark to prepare for what's coming. Noah, who lives in a small community in Ghana, says he has spent months gathering strong, seasoned wood to build the ark. He claims the materials are not ordinary, that each piece has been prayed over and chosen under divine instruction. While many people laugh at him and call him crazy, others are beginning to pay attention.
You know how you read the Bible and you hear stories of a guy is building an ark at Noah, and then at Noah was telling his neighbor, Cheki, Jere come, Jere kutanyesha. Jere anasema Cheki Noah, acha ufala. Yeah, and then it rained. And then you know the story, right? When Noah and his peeps were in there with the animals, you can imagine that place being inanuka tu mavi, right? Ya ng'ombe na ya elephant. So as they're sitting in there, Jerry's on the window over there. Jakey, no, because it's raining. You've heard the story, right? But here's a guy in 2025 who's telling you 25th December. He's even giving you the date. It's gonna rain. Like, why aren't you just going there in the event, just in case? I don't know. If in the event that it's raining and everything is going down, I'm going to GTC. I'm planning one of these skyscrapers in Kilimani. Here, maybe in Kampala. You know, in UG, they don't have like multiple story buildings. But here in Kenya, my guy, you've only flooded 4th floor. The rest of us were here. Anyway, where was I? I was telling you a story. I was telling you a story about Sri Lanka. So it has rained so much, guys. It's crazy. Like, there's a place called Sumatra. It's so bad. Sumatra's that's Indonesia. But Sri Lanka, Sumatra's in Indonesia. That place is so bad. And I'll tell you about this because as boxers, we have agreed that next year we all have to make an effort to plant a tree a day, right? So in a year, there's 365 days. We have to plant 365 trees next year each, right? And I'll tell you why. So here in Sumatra, what happened, they chopped the trees, a lot of deforestation, and the disaster was crazy. And even as we're speaking about it, I think about 800 people have died, right? And then there's also Sri Lanka where there's been heavy flooding. I mean, that whole region, that's east of Asia, it's crazy. Right? It's terrible. It's terrible. And we pray because, this is part of the La Nina weather pattern. Before I get into this story for Kenya, in Kenya, we're also experiencing La Nina. Did you know? Oh, you didn't know? We're currently going through drought. 2 million people as we speak without food. It's been going on. Actually, there's been a prolonged drought period going on in Kenya. And I'm sure you've noticed that between October and December, there's usually rains, short rains. Where are they? Right? So that's also exacerbating the situation. That's all the La Nina effect. And the weatherman is warning that this week into December, that there'll be massive rains in places like Nairobi. Expect flooding in some places. But that's beside the point. So as we're experiencing drought on this side, on the other side, they're experiencing crazy rain, typhoons. There was an earthquake in Japan, 7.9 magnitude. But this is where Kenyan gets interesting. So this guy goes and wins a race, but what he did with the prize money is what is interesting. My question is, would you do the same? Run the tape.
That I can donate this money to those affected victims. So I'm looking forward, maybe next year, I want to challenge all the Sri Lanka people, wherever you are, come and participate in such a race so that we can have so many people, we can have enough finance to support those less fortunate and people who are affected by such natural calamities. You never know. It can affect anyone else. So please, I'm requesting all the Sri Lankan people, including the kids, bring them here. They will participate. They will have a contribution to such a race. So I'm really glad, and God bless.
So that is Eric Kiplimo Mosbe. He took part in the Sri Lankan half marathon, and he won first place. He won himself about 417,000 Kenya shillings, and then decided to donate 100% of it to the victims of the Sri Lanka cyclone Ditwa, right? And he flew back the very same night with no cash in his pocket. Now, here's my question. First, I want to shout out the guy because this is exactly what humanity in sports is all about. But would you give the money? Like you've just chomoka dia from running your guts out, mazeu making. Kuna watu nyumbani wanangoja hizi pesa, alafu umedecide unaacha pesa hapo. But it's a great thing, right? It's a hell of a great thing. I think there's a lot to be learned from this. And I hope a lot of people, you can imagine your prize number 2. Mwesimama hapo umetoka kureceive number 1 amepatiwa cheki yake alafu amesema I'm donating. Alafu amepatiana speech refu hapo everybody. And then now the microphone and the camera stand to you. And then they're like, no, who ashapatiana me? I have people at home who are depending on me. I think it's a very noble thing, but I think it also depends on, you can tell, you see how athletes are rich? You see how athletes are rich? You think a musician would do this? This is why I'm telling you, more people should get into athletics. Kukimbia kwa streets. You know how I always say, there's something called being on the wrong side of history. Yeah, there's something called being on the wrong side of history. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you've seen pictures of the first time Black children were allowed to integrate. When in America, they decided there'll be this apartheid system. And so they're going to start having Blacks and whites going to the same school. I don't know if you've seen the photos. You can see here are kids trying to get to school, but then there's parents and children and the whole neighborhood is like, oh, get out of here, you dirty N-word, and they're doing news articles like, how dare this dirty N-word be in school with us, right? Here's a clip from, I think, Boston Marathon, right? And here's a lady. Did you know that up until 1967, women could not run in the Boston Marathon? Yeah. Marathons were only for men. Women were not allowed to run in marathons. Why? Now looking back, we're just like, what kind of weird rules are those, right? You know what it is? It's called being on the wrong side of history. On the wrong side of history. At that point, you and everybody around you, yeah, you're nodding, you're saying, yeah. Onezaji, I'll say onezaji kubali vitu kaizi. How can they? Yeah, we know better, right? And you can see in this video, here are people. This woman is running the Boston Marathon. She's still alive, by the way, and she still runs this marathon. Can you imagine all those haters if they survived? And the thing about haters, they never survive. I guess we're always on the wrong side of history. For some strange reason, they're never around to see history turn the other side. This woman had to be protected by her boyfriend and the boyfriend's friends, just so that she could run. Who is she hurting? No one. Who is she emasculating? No one. But men were so annoyed, they were even pulling her and shouting and hurling insults at her. Do you know, even when Africans were being taken to school, there were people who were against it. They didn't think it made any sense to educate the N-word because we were like animals. And that's not long ago. It's not long ago, guys. I'm not talking about a TCG in the 1st century. I'm talking about just 100 years ago. And I know 100 years seems, oh my God, 100 years ago. But some of these people are alive. And these were their thoughts. They thought we were not human. We were subhuman. And there are people who still think like that today, by the way. There are people who still think like that today, right? Why am I telling you this? Is because it's so important as you judge. Because, as you're seated here, you'll be like, those people that were collaborators, say, for example, we just celebrated Jamhuri Day. Those people who collaborated with the white man, those ones, bad guys. If I get them, I shika them, I fight them, right? But there were people like you and me. It was time that was lapsed. It wasn't a tea. They were living a tea. Now this is history. No, it was just life. They were living their lives, just choosing the wrong side of history. So in today's world, there are so many opportunities that are presented to you to make a conscious and right decision. Conscious, right decision. Conscious. You have to be conscious. You have to be aware of the decision you're making. You have to be aware. You have to look at the evidence on the table. You can't just be at me and my beliefs. Just like this guy. These guys believed women were not equal to men, shouldn't be running in a marathon together. Just the same way as those white people who are chasing those kids, and you're like, what? Why would they be? I mean, black kids and white kids, I mean, what's the difference? But they were so passionate about it that they were willing to come out and beat this child and hurl insults at them because they believed. They believed. So today, I want you to evaluate the things that you care about, or the things that you're willing to die for, the things that you believe in, right? And I always say, leave room for in case new information comes, it should be able to change this belief that you have. Because sometimes sticking to your beliefs, you could end up like these people who we're seeing in this video, in this footage, in these photos, who are on the wrong side of history. Speaking of history, I wonder how history will remember us right now, seated here, watching one country annihilate another country. I don't want to get into details because every time I mention this country, guys, my video is slowed down on the internet and sort of shadow banned, right? I'm talking about Israel and Palestine. And we'll get more deeper into this in other videos, but the ICC, right, is hearing a case against Israel and Palestine. If you don't know, I've got to keep you informed because this is an African affair, right? They've been cut off by banks, credit card companies, tech giants like Amazon as a result of sanctions that have been brought by the US President Trump's administration over war crimes investigations into Israel and US officials. So because you're investigating, tutakukata kwa bank, tutakublock, tutakufanyia hivi hivi. And you see, this is what ends up happening. Look, who wants to be inconvenienced just because they're trying to do their job? Wait, just imagine that today, like I'm doing this show, and Gava just decides they're going to make it so difficult, like they're going to block my... How many people would do this? Right? Anyway, we're going to be paying attention to this story of Israel and their war crime cases as it unfolds. But I just want to remind you, just as we watched that clip of the Boston Marathon and saw people on the wrong side of history, question is, which side of history will you be? Because everything we're doing today will one day be history. All right. Which country has officially banned deforestation? Like banned. Like, wewe ukileta deforestation hapa wapi? We don't accept deforestation. It's Norway. Norway has officially banned deforestation. And they have put like actual laws there to protect their forests. And basically the message that they're putting out there is if a country protects its forest, it protects its future. I think this is a good step because a lot of us are really struggling with this issue. Like, let me tell you an example. Here in Kenya, our president has a mandate. He wants to plant 15 billion trees, I think, right? But in the same breath, the other day he was announcing that the Mau forest is open for deforestation. You see what I'm saying? So Norway, this is what they've put in place, right? They are matching the law. It's not just putting a law and then just, yay, we pass a law. No, they're also matching it with action. So national programs to monitor and protect the land. Okay? So once we say this land is protected, you can't go there and just say at you, oh, my friend, there you can even be like, it's tantamount to trees don't even enter in that forest. You get what I'm saying? That's how you protect. Number 2, strict guidelines for ethical supply chains, right? So here we have a situation where a guy can just go and park his lorry somewhere at the counter outside the forest and then just wait for the mbaos. Where the fuck do you think the mbaos are coming from? Coming from inside the forest. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Strict guidelines, I've told you that. Restoration projects for damaged forests. So they're going to start fixing the forests that are already damaged, and cooperation between farmers, scientists, and activists. Have you had cooperation? Why am I telling you about this? Because I've just told you Kenya. East Africa. But if you're an East African nation, come closer, except Uganda. Okay. Actually, if you're no, let me not say East African country. If you're a honey, if you're a honey country from Africa, if you come from the Horn of Africa, that's what it means, right? So Djibouti, honey. Somalia, honey. Kenya, honey. Eritrea, honey, right? We're honey countries, right? On the Horn of East Africa, right? That's where the drought is hitting. Like the drought has hit Paka, it has choked. It's hit, right? And you know what one of the biggest challenges we have? Deforestation. We need trees, guys. The only way we can be able to tackle this issue that is hunger and famine is deforestation. And so when I tell you stories like this, is to say that it is possible if there is political will. If actually, and even forget even political will, even the will of the people in the country, right? To do something about it. I told you about the smog in Nairobi. I want to shout out everybody who reached out to me and told me, Kwambox, thank you so much for speaking about this smog, right? Because a lot of us, we live like we don't need nature. Do you understand that that's the brainwashing? You live like you don't need the environment that you live in, right? So here's a nation that has decided to ban deforestation. And if you know anything about Norway, your country meiva. I mean, the country looks like they've got their shit in order. Okay, they also banned fossil fuels, so I think for them it's important, right? They're one of the countries that has really benefited from fossil fuels, but they're also one of the countries that's really embracing green lifestyle, right? Including deforestation. So make sure you check up on that. And if your country pick in, I think African countries, this should be a law. Okay, deforestation, we need to have laws like this to stop us from really messing our environment. But then, since we're in that region, after the honey region, let's imagine you're honey, right? You've reached of age. We're not talking about some American stuff here, we're talking about African stuff. Let's imagine you've reached of age, right? Because a lot of young men are saying that they're not able to get women. Sindio? Mishino Katiana, right? Luga inagongana. You're not able to understand the other gender. Yeah, I'm finding a lot of young men don't know how to speak to women, right? Don't know how to connect with girls, and then now it's become like, oh, this gender. Maybe we need to do what Chad does. Yeah, you know Chad. Have you heard of a country called Chad? Kusha malizana na Sudan hapo next, right? So here is when a man gets of age and a woman gets of age. They meet in the public functions that they have. And this is how now, because this used to be a thing with Africa, right? You think at your African ancestors would be seated here, at the village is not able to marry, kids are not showing up, and then they just be seated that it's not, they would do something about it. They would do something about it. They'd even have a festival for mating. These are normal things. I've gone to a fertility festival in Nigeria. Absolutely amazing. And I want to shout out Nigeria. When it comes to festivals, traditional cultural festivals, I've been to, I think, 20 in Nigeria. And I love it. And big shout out to the Calabar Carnival that's coming up in December. It kicks off on the 1st of December, goes all the way to the 31st. If you're looking for a reason to go for Deti December, you can start from Calabar and finish it off in Lagos. But we're not in West Africa. We're in the East, in the Sahel region. And this is what happens when men get of age and they want to holler at them girls, show them that, yo, what's popping, what's crack-a-lacking, yo, niaje, kuba you drink. This is how they do it. Run the tape. Akuna anajituma, si mtu tu ati yani ajeenda ubaya. Huyu ni mtu anajituma, right? And that's what happens. These are some of the cultures that are still within Africa. And I can tell you that probably in that community, they don't have a problem with marrying, right? Because here, you've substituted the basics of what a man and a woman get together for. We've substituted it for, it's for money, it's for this, it's for that, and it's not, right? So that's in Chad. When you listen, as a guy, you've watched that video, right? Now standing with, imagine that's all you had to showcase, right? How well do you think you do? Unaona venye machali wamejipaka ma makeup, ma ornaments, yani umetokelezea. And there are guys here who think that even just applying Vaseline on the lips is gay. Woo! I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Do you think this is the direction we should be going back to? Right? Because hizi vitu za zungu zimetushinda. Honestly. I think throwing money at you is the answer. Right? Buying you things is the answer. And yes, even us as women, we participated in that. Yeah, squeezing me before even you see the person who shammed to me affair. You know? It's not about meeting midway so that you guys can go and do something or him coming to impress your family. You know, none of that. Anyway, I just saw these traditions. I know there's one of you laughing at them, but those guys are not missing babes. Those 3 guys probably have wives. Yeah. How you behave is how you're inculcated. Did you know that? Yeah. Like, why don't you behave like the next person? It's because you are brought up in different backgrounds. Yeah, alizaliwa kwa nyumba yao, they never even used to care about digging the nose. So that's why when you guys are seated together for dinner, ako tu hapo, anaguza jicho, the way anaisukuma, is getting even a bit of brain matter in the finger in the name of digging the nose, right? Culture is how you're inculcated. If your parents never saw any problem with, cleanliness, where are you going to learn? Where are you going to learn that? If you didn't learn it in school, luckily, if you were lucky to go to a school where a teacher cared, right? But some of these things, if you didn't learn them at home, forget about it. It's why they say that saying, asiyefunzwa na mamaye, arudi nyumbani. So, when I saw this story, it really got me deep thinking. I want you to watch this clip. This is by a TikToker and an Instagrammer that I follow. And she was talking about public toilets. And I want to ask you, in your country, is it the same? Because this is something I've noted here in Kenya. And I've spoken elaborately about this issue. Unaenda kwa choo unashanga kwani what the fuck? Ni ng'ombe zinaishi kwa hii choo ama what? Run the tape.
Did you go to a public school? Tick that box. What were your toilets like? Kutoka ukiwa public primary, public high school, university, and now your place of work. You've been conditioned to believe that using a dirty toilet is the norm. It is not. It's not normal. You've been conditioned. Miaka yote. You've been conditioned. I'm Kenny, guys. It is wrong. It is wrong. Fix it. Choo zingare bwana.
So, here's a lady talking about public toilets. You know how like you can go to a toilet has been labeled public for public use, meaning you, who's the public, is going to use it. And somebody has opened this. It could be a petrol station, someone's business. They've said fungua hiyo choo for people to use. And what's in that toilet is just you can't even describe, right? Let everybody use their own imagination or their own memory. Tunakumbuka ile choo yenye ilikuacha mpaka today you are just like when you see brown it triggers a memory, right? Or you've gone to a toilet mpaka you're even just like I just want to ask, who is this who has time to take their own shit and write on the wall? What is this, right? But I'm not here to complain. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to really dig deep into this psyche, right? There are people who think this is normal. There are people who think using dirty toilets is normal, right? And I've come to the conclusion that it comes from where you are raised. It comes from what you're willing to let as normal. Yeah. So you'll find that this toilet will still have, like, say it's a petrol station. And by the way, if you go to a petrol station, because we're the active citizens, India. If you go to a public toilet that has been opened for the public and it's dirty, I want you to be tagging me, right? Don't tag me a photo. Just tag and say, this nini inakuanga na choo dirty. They gotta step up their game. Because, what are you doing opening? Like you've opened a business and then I put a toilet and then I don't take care of it. So funga tu hiyo kitu. So just let us just do it in the bush or something. But if you're going to open a facility, it is your damn responsibility to take care of that facility. Right? And what this lady highlighted is something that a lot of us Kenyans are probably going through and we don't know. Right? You've used dirty toilets for so long that you think it's normal. Yeah, because it takes just one person to go to this dirty toilet and then go and complain to the manager. Just go to the manager and say, hey, brother, hiyo choo yenu mazee. 2-3 people complaining to the manager. Do you think the manager would let that toilet be like that? Like unakuja job kila siku kuacha shonde ndio watu wakuja iwai. Unafikiri ni shonde view toilet? You got to start thinking. But if it's us, the people who are using these facilities, that are allowing it. Nisisi. There are places you go in this country, you will never find a dirty toilet in a petrol station. There are parts of this, there are parts of the city. There are parts of this city right here where you go, you find a spanking clean toilet. Clean like that one where you can even go and buy a snack and sit inside the toilet. Not inside the toilet bowl, like inside the room and eat. I mean, if you can, if that's your thing. But then there are some places like, you don't even need to tell me. I know what I'm going to expect. I know exactly what to expect. And I think it speaks more of us, the people who are using these facilities. Because remember, they're not private, they are public facilities. You've put that thing there and said, I want the public to use it. Then if you want the public to use it, put it in good condition. But a person is never going to wake up and put it in good condition unless the people who are using it are complaining. So now this is what we're driving at. These are toilets that are used by people, humans. Somebody is doing hop, step, jump to get to the toilet. That is a facility. My God. It means basi hiyo ndio tumezoea. Because the only places you hear of toilets like this are like in prisons or like cells, right? But in actual, like where you're paying for, I don't know. I think we need to up our standards a bit. We need to be more active citizens. Watu wa kubet? Oye! Do you love to bet? Are you a master better? Huh? You just always know the odds. Yeah? You just like when you place, you just receive, right? Or you're even that one who even knows how to walk away, right? Because that's, the best kind of better is the one who knows when to stop, right? Which is not many, which is why you shouldn't, right? I'm actually against betting, gambling, online gambling. I never see. I've never had someone say, actually from my gambling, these are the benefits. I've never seen, like, they're professional gamblers, like people who like they play poker, or whatever, and that's their profession. I'm not gonna judge. It's the way they're sex workers and it's their profession. I don't judge them. Like, watch watu wafanye ile kitu yenye na feed, right? But it's not for me, thank you. So, gambling is taking a whole new dimension. And I want you to catch it before you find yourself in it and then you say, how did I get here, right? This is a new form of gambling. Let me tell you what has happened. People have gotten tired of gambling over sports. You know how you know? Aviator. You remember Aviator? Like, I think this year there's been more Aviator bets than actual sports bets. No, true. This is a true story. I mean, it reached a place even the government had to jump in and say, hey, we need to curb this shit. That's how bad it was. Sports gambling was limiting because you had to be interested in sports to take part in, right? How many people are interested in sports? There's one gender more than the other, Sindio. But like, these other gender who's not taking part in this gambling, are they not humans? Do they not have phones? Do they not want money? And so they sat down, they thought, they're like, how do we get this demographic involved in gambling without sports? Enter things like Aviator. And you see, I'm sure there's even somebody who's watching me right now, Aviator. And now they've lost and they're blaming me because I'm interested, right? You need to stop gambling. Now we've moved from sports and Aviator. There's a whole new thing you can gamble on, my guys. And it involves current affairs. This is a real story. There is a startup that has been funded with billions. And what are they doing? They're gambling. Gambling on what? World events. What kind of world events? Like, for example, you can say, you see this war that's happening here somewhere? Let's bet on how many people will die. Run the tape.
Kalshi is everything in Arabic. The long-term vision is to financialize everything and create a tradable asset out of any difference in opinion.
Let me just repeat what he said. Financialize everything and create a tradable asset out of any difference of opinion. What in the world? I've heard a lot of rich stick capitalists spew a lot of nonsense over the years. This might be the most perverse yet. Here's an example of a difference of opinion Kalshi has financialized. Israel's genocide in Gaza. This year, the site offered markets on whether or not a famine will be declared in Gaza, and if Israel will do mass relocations of the Gaza population. So people can actually try to make money betting on a dang genocide.
Oh my God. So, yeah, this is the world that we live in. Like, everything is up for gambling. Everything, like, nothing is sacred anymore. People are dying, people are hungry, and people are making money, right? But I know a real capitalist will sit down and say, but Kwambooks, that's exactly what capitalism is. It is on one part, 142 people owning 42.6. What 42.6 million people own? It's the same thing. The 0.000% continue to make money off of the misfortunes of the rest of the world. So here we are. And knowing how we have set money to be more important than anything, I promise you, you know who will be betting on these things? It'll be you telling me, you know what? This is like the new stock exchange. So we're going to leave it at that. All I'll remind you is with everything, there's something called history. And our history is not like anyone else's history. Our history will be live in 4K, every moment documented. In fact, you know, documentary ya Didi. Yeah. Where Didi is the one who's taking us around in the Nini, because in his mind, he doesn't think that, wrong side of history. So we're going to leave it at that. And all I'll say is, remember, with everything you do, there is history. Will we be on the right side or on the wrong guy? Wrong guy, guys, who?